Some of the deepest love stories begin with distance. That is the strange truth nobody talks about when it comes to avoidant partners. The closer they start feeling to someone, the more complicated their behavior becomes. One day they seem emotionally present, the next day they become quiet, harder to read, emotionally overwhelmed, almost like they are fighting something inside themselves. Most people see this sudden shift and immediately assume the relationship is dying. They assume the avoidant has lost interest. They assume the emotional connection is fading away. But psychology reveals something far more surprising. In many cases, this emotional shift appears right when an avoidant partner begins developing real attachment and genuine emotional love. That is why this video matters more than most people realize. Because the signs of love from an avoidant rarely look soft, romantic, or obvious. Their love often hides behind silence, confusion, emotional conflict, and internal struggle. Many avoidants spent years training themselves to survive without emotional dependence. Closeness feels dangerous to them. Vulnerability feels unfamiliar. And the moment somebody finally reaches their heart, their protective system starts reacting in ways that confuse everyone around them. In this video, you will learn the specific emotional shift that reveals an avoidant partner is becoming deeply attached to you. You will understand why avoidants suddenly pull away after moments of closeness. You will discover the hidden difference between emotional detachment and emotional overwhelm. You will also learn why many relationships end right at the moment an avoidant person is beginning to love for real. Most people completely misunderstand this stage, and because of that misunderstanding, they walk away too early from someone who is internally struggling to stay emotionally connected. There is also another side to this conversation that very few people discuss openly. Some avoidants become colder when they lose interest, but others become emotionally inconsistent because the relationship finally matters to them. That emotional contradiction creates one of the most painful and confusing experiences in modern relationships. The silence feels heavier. Their behavior becomes harder to read. Small emotional moments suddenly carry enormous meaning. And underneath all of it, there is often a quiet fear of emotional exposure that even the avoidant person barely understands themselves. By the end of this video, you will understand the hidden psychology behind these behaviors, the signs that separate fear from indifference, and the reason emotional distance sometimes hides genuine love instead of emotional absence. This perspective changes the way many people see avoidant attachment forever. So stay with me until the end because some of the most important signs appear in the final part of this discussion, and they may completely change the way you interpret your partner's behavior. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy deep psychological relationship insights like this, make sure to subscribe and join our growing community. One of the biggest misunderstandings about avoidant people is the belief that they are afraid of love itself. In reality, most avoidants are deeply capable of love, attachment, and emotional connection. The real fear begins when that connection starts becoming emotionally important to them. Casual relationships often feel easier because there is less emotional risk involved. They can stay relaxed, independent, and emotionally controlled. But the moment the relationship starts reaching deeper emotional territory, something inside them begins to shift. The connection stops feeling simple. It starts feeling dangerous to their nervous system, even when the relationship itself is healthy. For an avoidant, needing someone can feel terrifying. Emotional dependence creates a level of vulnerability they spent years trying to avoid. Many avoidants learned early in life that relying too much on people could lead to disappointment, emotional overwhelm, rejection, or loss of control. Because of that, their minds slowly built protective habits around emotional distance and self-reliance. Those habits may look calm from the outside, but internally they are often driven by fear. The closer they feel to someone, the more exposed they start feeling emotionally. That is why avoidants sometimes grow distant right after moments of intimacy or emotional closeness. A deep conversation, emotional affection, vulnerability, or even feeling truly understood can suddenly activate their internal defense system. Their mind starts warning them that they are becoming too emotionally attached. Instead of leaning further into the connection, they instinctively pull back to regain emotional safety. This reaction confuses many partners because the avoidant may have seemed warm, open, and emotionally connected only days earlier. As the emotional bond deepens, their behavior often becomes harder to understand. They may become quieter than usual. Their texts may lose emotional warmth. They may seem distracted, emotionally overwhelmed, or mentally distant. Some avoidants suddenly need more space without fully understanding why themselves. Others become emotionally inconsistent. One moment they seem deeply connected, and the next moment they seem emotionally unavailable. From the outside, it can feel cold and confusing, but internally, many avoidants are struggling with emotions they no longer know how to comfortably control. Distance does not always mean absence of love. Sometimes it means the feelings became too real to comfortably handle. That is the painful contradiction inside avoidant attachment. The relationship starts mattering more, but the fear of emotional dependence also becomes stronger. The deeper the connection becomes, the more their protective instincts begin fighting against their desire for closeness. One of the clearest signs that an avoidant partner is developing real emotional attachment is when they slowly begin letting you see parts of themselves they normally keep hidden. This usually does not happen in dramatic ways. It happens quietly, slowly, almost carefully. An avoidant who genuinely cares may suddenly start mentioning personal fears they usually avoid talking about. They may open up about stressful thoughts, old emotional wounds, painful memories from childhood, or moments of confusion they rarely admit to anyone. These conversations often appear small on the surface, but emotionally they carry enormous meaning. For an avoidant, emotional honesty is intimacy. Many of them spent years protecting themselves by staying emotionally guarded, so even small moments of vulnerability can feel deeply uncomfortable. When they begin lowering those emotional walls around you, it often means the relationship is becoming emotionally significant to them. Another powerful sign appears in the way they handle emotional distance. Avoidants often isolate themselves when emotions become overwhelming. They pull away to calm their nervous system and regain a sense of control. But there is an important difference between someone emotionally disconnected and someone emotionally overwhelmed. A disconnected person slowly disappears emotionally. An emotionally attached avoidant often returns after creating distance. They reconnect. They reach out again. They try to restore emotional balance after retreating into themselves. This pattern can feel confusing to a partner because the avoidant seems caught between wanting closeness and fearing it at the same time. But if someone fears attachment and still keeps reconnecting to you, that connection is affecting them deeply. This is very different from manipulative hot and cold behavior designed to control someone emotionally. Genuine avoidant struggle usually carries emotional hesitation, guilt, and internal conflict rather than calculated emotional games. One of the most overlooked signs of avoidant love is when they begin asking for help. Avoidants usually pride themselves on handling life alone. Self-reliance feels emotionally safer to them because dependence creates vulnerability. That is why even small requests for emotional support can reveal major emotional progress. They may ask for your advice during stressful situations. They may share problems they normally keep private. Sometimes they simply admit they are emotionally exhausted or overwhelmed. These moments matter because needing comfort does not come naturally to many avoidants. Trust slowly develops when they start allowing another person into emotional spaces they once protected very carefully. You also begin noticing that their distance feels emotional instead of cold. Cold indifference feels disconnected and emotionally flat. Fearful love feels tense and conflicted. Their silence carries emotional weight. Their hesitation feels loaded with internal struggle. They seem emotionally overwhelmed rather than emotionally empty. Some avoidants do not become colder when they love someone. They become emotionally overloaded because the relationship starts touching parts of themselves they spent years trying to keep protected. One of the saddest parts of avoidant relationships is that many people leave during the exact stage when the avoidant person is beginning to feel real emotional attachment. From the outside, the shift looks negative. The avoidant becomes quieter, less emotionally expressive, harder to read. Their energy changes, and many partners immediately interpret that change as loss of interest or fading love. The relationship suddenly feels emotionally unstable, and the natural reaction is to assume the avoidant no longer cares. For someone on the receiving end, the confusion can become emotionally exhausting. The silence feels personal, the emotional distance feels intentional, and over time, many people convince themselves that walking away is the only option left. But sometimes the avoidant is not running from you. They are running from the vulnerability you awaken inside them. That emotional truth changes the entire meaning behind their behavior. Many avoidants are deeply uncomfortable with emotional dependence because closeness activates fears they spent years suppressing. The relationship begins touching emotional needs they usually try to stay disconnected from. Instead of feeling calm inside the connection, they start feeling emotionally exposed. Their nervous system reacts as if emotional intimacy itself is dangerous, even when the relationship is safe and loving. This creates a painful contradiction. The more important the relationship becomes, the more emotionally overwhelmed they may start feeling. Some avoidants begin overthinking every interaction. Others become emotionally tense after moments of closeness because the attachment feels stronger than they know how to handle comfortably. A partner watching this from the outside often sees only withdrawal and inconsistency. They rarely see the internal panic happening underneath the surface. At the same time, understanding avoidant behavior should never become an excuse for harmful treatment. Emotional wounds and attachment fears do not justify disrespect, manipulation, emotional abuse, or repeated inconsistency without accountability. That distinction matters deeply because many people stay trapped in unhealthy situations hoping emotional distance automatically means hidden love. Genuine avoidance struggle still includes effort, self-awareness, and emotional responsibility. A healthy avoidant who is becoming aware of their patterns usually feels conflicted about the distance they create. They often try to reconnect after pulling away. They may feel guilt when they realize their behavior hurts someone they care about. Slowly, they start taking emotional risks they once avoided completely. You may notice them attempting small emotional repairs after moments of withdrawal. Sometimes they begin expressing vulnerability in ways that feel awkward but sincere. They may struggle to explain their emotions clearly, yet their actions reveal an internal battle between fear and attachment. That tension often becomes strongest right when the relationship starts becoming emotionally real to them. When someone you care about starts pulling away emotionally, the natural instinct is often to chase harder. People try to fix the distance quickly. They ask for constant reassurance, push for emotional conversations, or demand immediate clarity about the relationship. But with avoidant partners, emotional pressure usually creates the opposite effect. The more emotionally cornered they feel, the more their protective instincts activate. That is why responding calmly becomes extremely important during this stage. Emotional chasing can accidentally make the avoidant feel even more overwhelmed inside the connection, especially when they are already struggling with vulnerability and emotional exposure. This does not mean becoming emotionally unavailable yourself. It means learning how to stay emotionally grounded while the relationship moves through moments of uncertainty. Avoidants often respond better to emotional steadiness than emotional intensity. Clear communication matters more than dramatic emotional reactions. Instead of reacting impulsively to every moment of distance, emotionally grounded partners focus on consistency, honesty, and emotional stability. That calm energy creates safety inside the relationship, and emotional safety is one of the biggest challenges for avoidant attachment. At the same time, vulnerability should never be punished when it finally appears. Many avoidants already feel uncomfortable expressing emotional needs or deeper feelings. If their rare moments of openness are met with criticism, emotional explosions, guilt, or pressure, they often retreat even further into emotional protection. Small emotional risks matter deeply to them, even when those moments appear minor on the surface. A quiet confession, an awkward emotional conversation, or admitting confusion may actually represent enormous emotional effort internally. That is why patience and emotional awareness become so important in these relationships. Avoidants heal in relationships where closeness feels safe, not forced. Real emotional progress usually happens slowly, The goal is not forcing immediate emotional transformation. The goal is creating an environment where emotional connection stops feeling dangerous to their nervous system. Some avoidants need space to emotionally regulate themselves during moments of overwhelm. Allowing that space without panicking can sometimes strengthen emotional trust instead of weakening it. But healthy space and emotional abandonment are two very different things. Staying emotionally grounded means remaining calm without losing your own emotional needs in the process. Understanding avoidant behavior also does not mean sacrificing your emotional well-being to endlessly rescue someone from their fears. Compassion should exist alongside boundaries. Emotional patience should still include self-respect. Many people fall into the trap of over-explaining harmful behavior because they desperately want the relationship to work. But understanding someone does not mean losing yourself trying to save them. Healthy relationships still require effort, accountability, communication, and emotional care from both people, even when attachment fears are part of the struggle. Avoidants rarely say "I love you" through perfect emotional behavior. Their love often appears inside effort instead of certainty. Sometimes it appears through returning after distance, through trying again after emotional overwhelm, through slowly lowering walls they spent years building around themselves. Many avoidants want closeness deeply, but the closer they feel to someone, the more vulnerable they become inside their own mind. That inner conflict creates behaviors that confuse the people who care about them most. The shift begins when they stop protecting themselves as strongly as before. You start seeing emotional cracks in the armor they usually keep locked tightly around their feelings. There are moments of softness, moments of hesitation, moments where they clearly want connection but struggle to fully relax into it. And for someone terrified of vulnerability, that is a massive emotional risk. It may not look dramatic from the outside, but internally it can feel overwhelming for them. That is why understanding avoidant attachment requires emotional patience and emotional awareness. Some people pull away because they truly do not care, but others pull away because the relationship finally matters more than they expected. Fear and attachment begin existing together at the same time, and suddenly the avoidant person feels emotions they no longer know how to comfortably control. The distance becomes emotional instead of empty. Their silence carries tension instead of indifference. And slowly, their actions begin revealing feelings they struggle to explain with words. Not every avoidant who pulls away loves you. That truth matters. But when emotional fear and emotional attachment start appearing together, you are finally seeing their real emotional world underneath the protective behavior. You are seeing the conflict between their desire for connection and their fear of depending too deeply on another person. And sometimes the quietest emotional battles come from people who care more deeply than they know how to express. If this video helped you understand avoidant behavior in a deeper way, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more psychology and relationship insights that reveal the hidden emotional patterns behind human behavior.